Well, Steve, happy morning. Today's the day. 62 MAS. Since this watch came in, the reissues came out, and the values on these jumped a whole lot. I mean, a lot. At that time, when you first sent it in, you were potentially interested in finding a replacement set of hands that matched the dial. And that was something we considered doing. I think, well, one, I don't really have a set of hands right now that would match this. I will double check. One thing I could, well, I don't know. I mean, it's potential that I could harvest some old Lume from a dead Danny dial or handset and relume this, but the color, if I did that, would be very uniform gray. I also need to correct this Seiko. It's bent up in the middle. I guess let me look at it. My inclination is to leave it as original as possible, because really these are worth so much money now that, you know, fiddling around like that probably isn't a great idea. So, but let me look and see. Again, my inclination is always to do the least necessary to make it right, rather than going whole hog. So let's preserve what we can. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so here's the first thing that I'm seeing right now. It's not deadly. It's just something to be aware of. So this is the original case back seal, and we can see it's just flat. There's just nothing going on there. Just hardened and broken. We might have a little bit of pitting on the case back seal area, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. I also am going to need to, again, check your winding weight, because we're getting a little bit of wiggle there. Amplitude is still pretty good. Again, the mystery is about whether or not this watch has been serviced. If I were a gambling man, if this is my watch, I might just leave it, but we've decided to move ahead. So I'm going to look at it and see, because there are some tricks that can be done to make a watch run like this without actually truly fully servicing it. So let's see what we find. Okay, so we're getting a little bit further into it. One of the things I want to see, well, there's a couple things. One of your dial screws is missing. You can see one is right here, as it should be. This dial screw is missing. I have replacements, so I'll replace that. We've got a lot of wear on the lower mainspring R report, so, or at least we did at some point, so I'm going to rip that apart. I'll be very curious to see how that goes. The servicing, if a servicing did happen, and it looks like it might, was a little sloppy. You can't really see it, but there's sort of fingerprints and sort of smudgy grease streaks on this. There's also a little bit of gruck around, especially around this pivot for the escape wheel. We're going to look a little bit further into that. Okay, let's go. Okay, got a few things to show you here. So I pulled off the train bridge. Whoever went through this, before that they went through, this watch had a lot of, I see things like this when pieces of metal and debris get caught up between the barrel and the train bridge. And so it was really grinding around. That's where this plating got removed. Also, I can see that the job wasn't necessarily very clean. There's a little hair right there. That's no fun. Lastly, the reason why your dial screw is missing over here is because there's no dial foot over there. You can see the bottom of the dial foot right there. There is no dial foot here. The dial is glued or adhered to the front of the movement, so I'm gonna have to pull that apart. So that's pretty common. That happens a lot. So I'll just see what I find in there. Lastly, for this stage, something to be aware of. There's some crazy stuff. In fact, something I've never seen before that I can remember. If you look at, where is it? I don't know if you can see it. If you look at this jewel, see it has sort of this, see that sort of divot across it there? I don't know if I can make this any bigger. Oh, I can. Ooh, so cool. Let me focus, but let me try. it's actually divoted. It's like it's eaten away right in the middle, right on the face where that wheel would turn, which is going to jack up all of the. It's going to jack with the and shake everything of that wheel. So we're going to have to replace that. That's just not an option. That shouldn't be there. We can also see that whatever repair the guy did to the lower mainspring arbor, he didn't do anything with the upper mainspring arbor at all. It's actually pretty roasted. You can see it's actually blown out, deeply worn right into the brass, and there's also like a little fiber right here. So this is going to need to be pulled out. I'm going to have to deal with that. It might be, if I have another 6217 bridge, that might be a simpler way to deal with it. Failing that, I'll have to do some repairs here and definitely swap that out. That's no good. That has to go. Okay, let's keep. So now we're looking at the lower mainspring arbor port, and we can see that is very worn, really blown out on that side, really ovaled out there, and it's so worn that the top, this is the top of the barrel that drops in right there, and you can see that circle of wear right there. That's this raised section in the barrel. So this is so worn that it's dropping down so far that it's grinding off the plating here. So we're gonna have to look at top and bottom mainspring arbor repairs on this one. I'm gonna be very curious to open this. Well, here, let me just do it. I'm here. Let's open the barrel and let's see what we find. Hey, that looks pretty good. At least they cleaned the inside of the barrel. That's something. So we know the mainspring is pretty clean. I'll look at it and test it to make sure that it is behaving the way that it should, but it's nice to open this up and see that did get cleaned out, which is good. Okay. So here's the calendar side of your movement. You can see here, these are the adhesive patches that were holding the dial on this side. Something is real crazy. Something else I've never seen before. So I went and I wanted to remove the hour wheel, which is right here. And the hour wheel came right up, and it had the cannon pinion inside of it. See that little silver star there in the middle? The cannon pinion is supposed to be a force fit, a friction fit on the center wheel. And it was so not holding like at all that I lifted up this wheel, and it just, everything came apart, and this wheel just fell out. So that is going to need some, I'm not sure if the center wheel is bad or the center wheel and the cannon pinion. So, but that's some craziness. I haven't seen that before. That's pretty wacky. So we're probably looking at one or both of those parts being replaced. Okay, moving forward. So it's always interesting to look and see the things that we see. Now that we see the calendar side that was underneath that dial, which is glued down, whoever did the service, quote unquote, on this thing didn't want to pull that dial off. This is right here. Oh, gosh darn it. What we see right here, there's no lubrication under this capsule. It's dry. So you should see a little dark circle around there of where the oil is contacting the underneath the capsule. There's nothing there, totally dry. And this is dirty as well, and this is pretty worn. This is underneath the center wheel. It is just sort of generally dirty, but I've seen worse, so I'm going to pull the rest of this stuff off of here, and we are going to see what we see. So it's great that we decided to go ahead and service this. Obviously, we would have had to with that center wheel being bad, but also it was not serviced on this side at all. Okay, so I got your crown open. These are typically not real, they're not too much of a fuss to get open, but this one was. Goodness, piece of brass there. This one did not want to open up, but we got it open. The back plate right there. And you can see when you force these open, it'll strip off sometimes a little piece of the metal around, but that's not a big deal. When I put the plate back on and stake it down, it'll round over quite nicely and hold like a dream. And there's the old seal. Whew, hard as a rock. Hard as a rock. I mean, look at that. I can chip pieces off of it. It's not even rubber anymore. Amazing. anyway, I'll get that out, get that all cleaned up. We'll put a new seal in it. And, well, actually, I'll put it through the cleaner first, and then we'll put a new seal in it. Close it up. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Another beautiful day. Okay, so everything was out of the cleaner now. I've reassembled the barrel. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing a first check to make sure that everything's kosher on the repairs that I did to the upper and lower mainspring arbor port. There you see him there turning. The 6200 series, Seiko did make a jewel for the upper, but I've never been able to find it loose. It's something that comes pre-made in a train bridge for a 6218, but I can't get it. But what I do have is this is a replacement correct Seiko bushing. So your old bushing is worn piece of garbage, and that is in your parts here. And then we have the, but then that is, I replaced that there. We can see that it turns nicely. And you can also see it's not moving. See, you're not flopping around. What I'm very proud of is my super cool Nido mosquito trick that I did for the, that I do for the lower. Now your lower was really eaten, and so I needed to replace the lower, but like the upper, the size of this lower mainspring arbor port, there's no jewel that I'm aware of that fits this. I'm sure there's probably a generic ring jewel that would fit it, but I don't have one. You can't really see it from below. You can kind of see it from above right here. So this was all eaten out and jammed up, and so I machined this out, and then I'm very proud of this. There isn't a jewel that will fit in here, but there is a bushing that will work in here. The 5126 Danny Seikos, in their winding assembly, they have a metal bushing. And so I could ream this out to that correct outer size, that outer diameter, drive the bushing home, and then using the same Zeitz jeweling tool, I ream out the inside of this to be correct for the bottom of the mainspring arbor. So instead of this thing sitting in brass, now there's a stainless steel ring in there. There's a steel ring in there. So that is much better. So we are going to now move ahead. Oh, and going through my things, I did find a new old stock cannon pinion and center wheel for this one. I had previously opened it to clean it, and then I sealed it up again, but this is brand new old stock, never been installed, cannon pinion and center wheel. That's the only one I have. There it is. There we are. Running along, doing running stuff. These always have nice steady amplitude. Even though they're only 18,000 BPH, they tend to really, they have they're good stable movements. Interestingly, by the way, the bad jewel that was in there before, the guy that put it in, this is a replacement, actually, it's supposed to have just a bushing in this bridge, like this, but he actually machined that out and put in like a pocket watch jewel. And so those marks on the bottom are how it was made. So I had to find one of a similar size and put it in. This thing's rocking. Okay, so I found one bad part. This is your winding pinion, the thing that when you pull the crown and turn, it goes click, click, click. And if you look at the teeth on the end there, you can see, hopefully, that they're all chewed up. Like bits of them are actually missing around some of the circumference. Like it looks all rough and jagged and nasty, like a broken tooth. So these parts are fairly rare, but I do have one. See how that looks all nice and sharp like a crown? Let's see if I can compare these side by side for you. The bad one is the one on the left, and you can see that it's all kind of weird and hacked up looking, but the one on the right is nice and even. So that'll certainly help. This watch had a lot of miles on it. It's been repaired a lot and not particularly repaired well sometimes, but we're gonna make it better. Okay, so an update. So These 6200 series, they're notorious for having one problem, which is having really inconsistent time setting. They feel sort of crunchy in here. Now, you had a bad winding pinion with broken teeth on it. The reason is because this setting lever right here on your original one, this previous watchsmith tried to be clever. He must have been having problems with it. And what he did was, let's see which one I've got here. Yeah, that's the bad one. I don't know that you can really see this. I'm gonna try here. Come on. Okay, you can kind of see it. Okay, see that gear there? He took this thing off. That gear must have been bad, and he tried to do basically a repair to it, to stake it back in place or replace it with a gear of another kind. Now, okay, so you can sort of see it there. Now, this is a good lever. I don't know if you can see. See, this gear is flat on the bottoms. Hopefully you can see it. That gear's flat on the bottom. You'll notice this gear is beveled. It actually has a little bevel on the bottom, angled in. So the reason they do that is to make it so the parts mesh together more quickly, more smoothly. Yours wasn't like that anymore because the guy went and redid this one to try to make it work, and he just did it as flat. So it was just grinding and crunching and cracking, and it was just breaking off teeth, and it was no good. So I replaced this wheel. Also, this intermediate wheel here, this is yours, was the port in it, the hole in it is worn. And so this one is nice, and it's because this one was sort of flopping around a little bit. This one does not. So that should do it, because now we're getting decent. Decent time setting, which is important. Before it was not doing this. It was like tonk, clunk, clunk, chink, chink, chunk, chunk, chunk. So there it is. Okay, onward and upward. It's together, and those are the sort of numbers that we're getting. I can't complain, you know, it's a lot of work, but gosh, brought it back. Just doing some final adjustments and some little checks after all that work. Man alive. Yeah. So this loss that you're seeing here, what I do is when I do this, you average loss gain through a bunch of different positions. So you're seeing a loss here, but it's averaged out by a gain. This one, your balance is a little funky, so I had to do some dancing, but that's the way that it goes. Plus, I can't really shoot for your wrist, but I try. We average it out. Okay. Well, there she is. It's always nice to have a challenge, and this watch was a challenge. Oh, this is the thing I meant to tell you. Okay, so you wanted me to go ahead and try to relume this minute hand, which you'll remember was missing all of its lume. This hand lume right here, the hour hand, that's original lume. The sweep hand, that's original lume. These are both completely original. This is the new lume that I put in, and I did my best to match this hand lume. It's original Seiko lume that I re-powderized and liquefied, choosing source stuff that looked like it was going to be close to this color, and I think we got it. So nothing stands out, nothing looks weird. The dial lume is original. Basically, it's all original Seiko lume. It's just that this Seiko lume is new to this watch, but the hand is original, everything else is original. The time setting works fine. Nice and smooth, no crunching, no skips, nothing. You will find the movement ring on this watch is a little, I don't know, it's not, it's when you screw the case back down, it presses into the movement ring, and the movement ring then is held in place. It's kind of an older system. Seiko now uses, or later on used, a spring. This is like a direct physical interaction. When I crank the case back down, it compresses the movement into the case, and it also it takes the whole thing slightly off center. So you're getting a little bit of pressure on the crown. It makes the crown a little stiff to pull out. It's not the new crown seal. It's not the new crown seal. It is, trust me, because if you unscrew the case back, the crown just pops in and out. Everything's very simple. But as soon as you seat the case back nice and firmly, then it's gonna feel a little tough. So you have to just, I mean, everything works as it should. You're just gonna have to, it's not gonna feel distinct, because you've got that pressure on it. But without doing major, in fact, I'm not even sure what I would need to do in order to make that work. I really don't. But trust me, it's as good as I can make it, and it is good. And it's totally sealed up. Let's see, today's the 11th. Let's see, it is 3:58. Come on, pop out. We'll just call it 3:59. And there it is. So I'm pretty happy with that. All clean, all new seals, completely repaired. All your stuff is in here. Where is your minute wheel? I did replace your minute wheel. Oh, and here's your crystal as well. Anyway, lots of fun. Thank you so much for your patience and for sending in this great watch. And I really look forward to you getting it back and having fun. Okay, we'll see ya.